The 10th. The 10th man's face reflected cloud and mountain, grass and desert. He looked into the traveler's eyes and bowed his head before speaking. I am an odd one amidst this group, for I did not lead to he who came next. It was not until I was a young man that your father came to me, appeared in dream, and said, "The course that presents shall lead to me. Your father shall take you to a brother. Walk with him, speak of your path to others. Together you shall find a truer path than they. You shall relieve mindlessness, and I shall await you." I did not know who he was, but from that day my path changed course. I attributed my vision as well as I could. Soon afterwards my father introduced me to a man, my colleague who preceded me. I spoke on matters on which I knew nothing, and to a man who knew much. I spoke of the limitations of reason. Afterwards I worried I had embarrassed myself, but then realized the reason for which I spoke. My colleague's work was lost to the world of our brothers, left to be embraced by our cousins alone. It was to that I referred in speaking of your father's line, for I was not part of that line, but an offshoot. I now know the line he produced ended in destruction, a world of reason lacking the guiding influence of objective imagination. I did no better in the world of our brothers, which entered the world of imagination unguided by objectivity, untouched by reason. But I know my work was complete, just as was my colleagues. It was not for us to do more than we were able. The traveler spoke. My father must have known, by the time you lived, that the good works of men would not suffice to draw them from the future foreseen. In truth, my father guided each of you to control the flood, but not to stop it. In your case, he saw your colleague's future, what it would touch and not touch. He saw where he wished the torch to go, but also that your own world would go astray. While cushioning your cousins with the presence of his torch, he could not allow total weakness in your own world. He came to you so that you could seek a path that would inject virtue into blindness. The path to which your colleague's teaching would lead was that to which you alluded, unknowingly as a boy to your brother. That path, as you said, led to reason unguided. It was a path provoked by 1,000 years of imagination untempered by reason. It was that very same ignorance into which your own family quickly walked after you and your brother had passed. You were right in your teachings to concentrate on the balance of reason and imagination. Reason without imagination tuned to the waypoints of unified existence leads to the destruction of balance and to the prevention of the positive evolution of worlds. Similarly, imagination without reason offers only the regression of man into his innate state, from which he had, over long periods, through great effort, evolved. As man gradually joined his reason and imagination, his ability developed for objective imagination. It was then that my father set amongst men, his son, the first of your colleagues. The torch my father gave was that which would light the way, amidst angels and gods, towards that which is whole. It would offer man the ability to see his link with God, satisfy his need to exemplify God on earth with an understanding. The understanding was that reason was always to act in the service of harmony, in the fostering of gentle strength through knowledge. But man may choose what is in front of him, and he in general did not choose gentle strength. His animal instinct was too strong, and so he chose to compete and to slaughter. Man, used to following those ambitious for power, was unable to comprehend, so to enforce his shifting need. And so the power-hungry remained, only ever influenced by objective imagination so long as it suited, and rarely to the point it meant the sacrifice of power. Therefore, the powerful man remained animal, and yet selfish and subjective, following only immediate and superficial concerns. His own limitation kept him from seeing that wholesome form of selfishness that would have benefited not only him, but all else as well. It did not matter. My father had bided his time, and man had proved unable to find his own way forward. The powers of reason and imagination have long established the paths that man may take to surmount misery and viciousness. And yet all man has done is vacillate back and forth between light and dark, whilst creating ever greater forces of destructive power. All life suffers the draw of the particular form from the universal. The desire for ease, the temptation to regress, is not unique to man. All must overcome these forces. Thus, though I could contribute man's folly to the powers of greater forces, where the means exist to move forwards, a choice must be made. Man has had that choice for a long time, yet still he chooses ignorance over knowledge. Still he remains incapable of distinguishing power from life. The traveller stopped, and the man asked, "Is it not to be expected that only a small segment of a population may consider how to draw man from ignorance?" The traveller responded, "The universe must contain all, and man as a species is precisely what it must be at any given time. But man's course must now be divided, so that those who would grow shall not be destroyed by those who would wither. This is man's folly, for he has had the opportunity to choose. He has chosen, and it seems he will not alter that choice. What you accomplished was the retention of a pocket of man's mind to think of truth, a truth neither limited to local knowledge nor to empty belief. So you have made my work easier. You have lessened the resistance that I might have faced, and for that I am grateful." The man bowed and walked away. He took his place in the ark, and Torin watched the last two men come forward together.